Thanks for tuning in to the Money Game Podcast, episode 9. I've been looking forward to putting this one out. Today, we're playing the Money Game with Paul Cheetham Karcz, owner and founder of a huge accountancy and investment firm, Sedulo Group. After speaking with Paul, it was obvious to me why he's been so successful. He's extremely driven, diligent, and holds himself and those around him to a very high standard on a daily basis. He creates elite environments to be able to achieve elite results.
The original goal was like, imagine we can do 20 grand a month. That was it. We got there in the first year and then I was like, I didn't even consider it. I'm like, imagine we did 50 and then we get to 50 grand a month.
Yeah.
And then it was, imagine we do 83 because that's £1 million a year. I genuinely believe I can do almost anything that I put my mind to because I've just got such a tenacity to make it work.
Yeah.
It's not a talent.
I
just can't admit defeat at all. If you're not careful, people will try to put your ideas into their box and not your own.
Paul, thanks so much for coming down. Been looking forward to get you on. How was the walk over?
It was all right. 10 minutes. Didn't take that long. I've been here before.
Oh, yeah.
It's a nice place, isn't it?
Yeah, really nice. So it took a little while to come up to you. It's like a little maze in it.
Yeah.
With like about 100 fobs to get through the doors. But no, good to have you here. I probably came over to you guys maybe a few months ago.
Yeah.
Kind of, you guys really helped me kind of get my stuff in order. So
good.
Yeah, I kind of obviously know your company a little bit. Been to the offices, which are like beautiful as well.
Did you go to Manchester?
Yeah. When first time I went over there to have a meeting there and sort all my finances out, which was top. I loved how you did everything. You had like a little, I think it was a Michael Jordan room.
Yeah.
You had like little themes around the place, which is cool. How did that come in?
Well, so my very first client was a marketing agency, SEO. You know SEO, getting you to the top of Google.
Yeah.
So my first or second client was, it's a long story this, but I'll keep it short. My first or second client was a digital marketing agency that did SEO, getting to the top of Google. And this was back in the day when it wasn't about next or now top of the Google for, black trousers or whatever. But back then, it didn't matter. You could like set up Paul's trouser shop and come above next. We was the people that got you above that. So the long story was, so we built that agency, sold it to a listed company, and the stock market crashed. And they rang me up and said, hey, we bought that business off you. Do you want to come back and do some work with us? This was on the stock market in Sweden. I was like 26 or 27. I was like, yeah, no worries. Anyway, it turns out they were massively in debt to Google. So they were Google's biggest customer back then in Europe. And I used to have to go over to Google every week with a cheque for £50,000 and hand it to the guys over there to prove that we're going to pay our way out of it.
Yeah.
So I sat around in Google when it was tiny in Ireland, where the head office for Europe was and probably still is. And I was like, this is a cool place to work. And then I was like, obviously I'm an accountant. I was like, why is it so boring, like all our traditional, the places we are? So I came straight back. And then something weird happened with one of my old landlords. He bought a new building. And I was like, do you know what? I'm going to take this building. I'm going to put a reggae bar on the roof. And we've got like a New York style bar, which I ripped off from a Christmas do we had in Barcelona, the Hotel U232. So I put that in there and I put the Michael Jordan suite in. Yeah. And now we've got, as I say, I went to the Maldives on my honeymoon, seen a reggae bar, put it on the roof. I've just got the gym from the Jumeirah Beach Hotel. You know, the wooden gym that they have in Dubai?
Yeah.
They're wooden, so that's going on the roof.
Nice.
And then in Leeds, we have indoor tennis. Liverpool just opened. That's got an American diner. It's got like an Ivy style.
Yeah.
You know what? When you do something, you've got to. I think there's got to be an element of fun in what you do.
Yeah. Is that what the purpose is? Fun. For your.
Before the thing that now everybody knows is a WeWork, which is creating ecosystems, a bit like they've got here.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, how do I get all my clients to be able to come in, have a coffee? Some of them, if it was in the public eye, they wanted to come in, have the meetings out of the way, and then have a coffee. So it was like create an ecosystem. But one of the things is I think if you're trying to create a high-performing environment, you have to have a high-performing environment.
Yeah,
you ain't going to get high performance in a crappy environment. So it's like, so that was a long way of telling you. No,
I love that. And I think even like me coming to have a meeting with an accountant, I'm thinking just come in there and just see loads of computers and offices.
Yeah.
But I came in and seen this amazing place, which is really cool. And I think they mentioned you do like a few events there, don't you?
we have a lot of events. It's funny, Tony Bellew did his book launch at our Liverpool one, and Jamie Carragher came over. And I've got a friend who knows Jamie, and I didn't know him at the time. And I said, oh, Jamie Carragher's coming over to do like live punditry for the England-Hungary game, whenever, just pre-Christmas. And he goes, all right, I'll see what he's doing. And he rang me up and he went, he's doing this interview and he's getting straight off. Mm-hmm. And he obviously thought he was coming into like an accountancy firm. And he thought, what
then he's in the reggae bar for like 3 hours.
And the next thing, he's in like the Ivy type thing in Liverpool, stayed and watched the game. But yeah, we have all different types of, it could be fun events, like sporting events. Yeah. And then there's obviously there's plenty of series. I think we have about 2 events a week on. Yeah.
So you guys are obviously a huge firm. You're in 4 cities, over 150 staff, over 2,000 clients. Did you, from when you started the business and to where you're at now, did you envision that at all? Or was it just kind of surprise yourself when you start looking back at how well you built the business?
It's a good question. It's definitely not surprised me. And I've got a podcast where I interview people, and I have this leadership club now where we speak to elite people. And David Hay, I remember I was speaking to him not that long ago, and he got knocked out, I think, in his 14th fight by Carl Thompson. So he was 13-0, 13 knockouts, 14th fight, expected to beat a guy, Carl Thompson. And he got knocked out and he got beat. And I said to David Hay at the time, what did you think when he was walking back to the ring? Because some people crumble then, don't they?
Yeah.
And he said, oh, I just knew that was a lesson that I needed to learn before I became the world heavyweight champion.
Right.
And it's kind of like a lot of people who succeed tend to have that vision, don't they? Now, I didn't know how big we would get or how big we're even going to get because we're like 13 years old now, and the trajectory gets more as we get bigger.
Yeah.
But I always knew we wouldn't be ordinary. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why was that? Was that because of you?
Just knew. I just knew. I remember on my wedding day getting married, and we asked for some musicians, and they were all there. All my mates, I'm from a council estate. Yeah. All my mates from the council estate there, and all my, performers were there, Brit Award winning performers, and all this kind of stuff. I remember sitting back, thinking, I knew it'd be like this, and I don't know why, but a lot of people have spoke to her like that. So I knew we'd get big. I didn't know how big, but I just knew we would be different because I'm somebody who's quite passionate about like hitting your ceiling. And in fact, I'm really passionate about helping other people try and hit their ceiling, because I think in life, I don't know where you come from in London, but where I come from in Manchester, the place I came from, it's kind of like there's no too much aspiration. Like if you can get a job,
for sure.
So I feel like there's a system in this country of people placing your ceiling above your head.
Yeah, definitely.
And I've always been like, let's move that. Let's see where we can get. Let's try. Let's fail. Try another way. Fail again. Keep going. I've always been a bit like that, and I still am now. Like if you asked me where I am, I could list off what we've done and so on. I reckon I'm about chapter 3 in a book. Do you get what I mean? So I feel like there's so much more. But I could be wrong. I could be.
Yeah. Well, what was your upbringing like in terms of like parents, how their parenting style? Where do you think you kind of got that mentality to be a bit different and kind of push the limits?
I'll tell you one big thing that. So my dad left when I was 2. Yeah. So my mum brought me up, me and my sister on her own. She had to work a lot, so I was brought up by my granddad. He was a disciplinarian. Even to this day, I still respect like elders. Do you know what I mean? I love to sponge off elderly people. So I learned that lesson early, and then my dad came into my life. My stepdad, who is my dad, he came into my life, and he was a lorry driver, and he never tried to push me to be anything. Yeah. And my mum worked at B&Q, and she never tried to push me to be anything. But I think from an early age, I had a lot of rejection. As a kid, so I still feel insecure, and it's kind of like that burning ambition to be somebody's not the right phrase, but do you get what I mean by that? It's a burning to prove, maybe it's to prove my biological dad wrong for rejecting me, whatever it is. There was always a burning ambition. I had to win at everything. If I didn't win, I used to cry. And my dad used to look at me and be like, I'd be heartbroken at 11 on the pitch because if we didn't win the game. And my dad would be like, you're an embarrassment, you're a bad sport. I'd trip people up if they was on the way into...
Stepdad? Was that? Okay.
So, and he is my dad. I don't call him Dad, he's my dad, but just for context. And I remember like I had to win at everything. If I didn't win, I felt like I couldn't talk to people for days.
Yeah. I'm definitely the same. Anyone that knows me, I'm a terrible. They'll call me a terrible sport, sore loser.
Yeah.
And I'm someone who can never get angry. No one could say something to me to get me angry enough that into rage. But one thing that could get me there is if I'm losing or if I've lost and someone rubs it in. That's when I'm like at my angriest. And I know what you're talking about. I think it does maybe come from a bit of insecurity from somewhere. Almost you need to prove your value by winning in a way. Maybe. I'm not too sure. But do you think that maybe come from your parents?
I do. And I think they never pushed me to do anything. Which I find difficult now, having 4 kids, and one of them's 15, just about to leave school.
Yeah.
And I'm always a little bit conscious about how much I push him and how much I don't push him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I find that quite difficult because I feel like you need to push your kids, but I was never pushed thinking about it. But then I had something, when I've analysed it, I kind of going back, I feel like I've got something to prove, and I've been like that my whole life. Even now, I'll find people who piss me off. You know, like we talked about The Last Dance before, where I think Michael Jordan talked about somebody looked at him once, and he thought, "I'm going to nail you on such a," and he did.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the same sort of concept now. I will find things in business or people in business that I don't like, and I'll be in a competition to outrun them or whatever.
Yeah. You obviously speaking to you for a little while. You obviously relate to sports quite a lot.
Yeah.
And it's also something that you do as part of Sedulo. You work with a lot of celebrities, a lot of sportsmen, whether footballers, boxers. How did that come about? I really hope you're enjoying the show. I would just like to ask for 1 minute of your time to tell you about my sponsor whose support makes the show possible, CPC Finance. CPC Finance is a finance broker that specialises in sourcing and packaging a wide range of property funding. You name it, from buy-to-lets to commercial properties, auction investments, property developments. They are everything you'd want as a finance broker working for you on your property deal. They're extremely experienced. They know their market extremely well, which means they can move quickly. They're on the ball. They've been in the game for 30 years, which has enabled them to, one, build very strong relationships with a variety of lenders, which as an investor is super important, especially when things don't go to plan. Deals in certain situations aren't straightforward, which is often the case. They are bespoke specialists. And 2, they have a brilliant understanding of all types of property investing. They know the strategies, they understand deal structures. There isn't anything these guys haven't seen, they're seasoned pros. So if you're someone looking for property finance of any kind, go to cpcfinance.co.uk, and on the homepage you can schedule in a call at whatever time or day suits.
So my original degree was sports science.
Yeah.
I was always like competitive at lots of sports, but I wasn't brilliant at any one. I mean, a lot of times I feel like from a mindset perspective, I should have been a sports person. But anyway, physically I wasn't good enough. So I was going to be a PE teacher. The next thing, a lot of people, you want to be footballers or whatever, and it's like PE. I remember getting my PE of my sports science degree, doing what's called a PGCSE, and they gave me a list again of like, this is the salary you go on. I think it was about 18 grand a year, or maybe 20 grand a year. And then it goes up a grand a year for 11 years. And I was like 21, I think by 32 I'm going to be on 30 grand a year. And I thought, I don't want to fall into this ladder system again. Then I needed a job, because then I had a degree with no job to go into. And I'd done a sports degree for love, not for, a career step, really. So I got lucky and I became an accountant by pure chance. And having become an accountant, I only really ever had any intention of turning that into working with things that I enjoy, things that I was passionate about. And that was sport, music and fashion, and a bit of leisure, restaurant type stuff. So when I set up my own business, about 28 I was, 14, 15 years ago, I just always thought, how do you attract people? Well, you attract business owners by saying, we act for these top restaurants. So I tried to get into the top restaurants. Then when I was in the top restaurants and clubs, members clubs, they have clientele that are media, music, football. So then I started to meet some of them. And to be honest with you, then I started to see, particularly in football, how ludicrously bad the investment portfolio, or what they were trying to get involved in, was. So that made me want to get involved in even more.
Yeah.
And that's how it came about. So
what part of the business was you at that point?
So at that
what level
point,
was that?
Oh yeah, so I mean, we were small. We probably, I mean, this was early on. I think our third client was a footballer.
Oh really?
So
but even at that point, you really thought you could still bring value to.
Yeah, well, I was a qualified accountant.
Yeah.
I cared about people. I liked being on people's journeys, and I could see the pitfalls.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, then it's a good question, because I tell you what happened then. We sold that marketing business, which we talked about before, and the client, we sold it for 15 million quid, right? So we got a big fee of that.
Yeah.
And that client was then like, what should we do? And I was like, he was coming to me with ideas being given to him. And it was like, let's buy an apartment in the Mondrian Hotel in Miami. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I did.
Yeah.
Then it was like, what do I want to do? It was like, somebody came in and said, I want investment in a fashion brand. There you go. Somebody else wanted investment in some restaurants. There we go. This is me.
Yeah,
and I'm an accountant, 27, 28. I bought a place in Marbella, and then and probably did 2 or 3 more investments.
Yeah.
So I kind of spreaded my risks, my bets a little bit, but they were all ego-based. Bars, fashion. I put a bit of money into a local football club, and tell you what, by 2009 it had all gone.
Yeah.
So that made me.
But at the time, you thought they were good business decisions.
At the time, I thought they were okay. And I, you know, as a youngish lad, 27, 28, it's just selling a business for 15 million quid. You think you're going to sell lots more businesses for 15 million quid, but it doesn't work like that, right? So then we lost it all, and it was 08, 09. It was a big recession. Then I had to go back to my day job, you know, building my accountancy firm. As it was then, it was just accountancy and tax. So I went back to basics and just painfully built building blocks day after day, hour after hour, and I stopped any noise coming in. I just went and became boring.
How long was that period for?
About 5 years.
5 years. Single then, or?
I was actually single.
Yeah,
then.
but so no kids, single.
I'd had a kid. I've got 4 kids, 3 with my wife and 1, my eldest, from a different relationship. And so I think we just got to the point where we'd had him split up, and I was just focusing on being a dad and working, and that's the only thing I cared about. And these like egotistical investments went out the window and back to basics. And I just built and built and built and built a business, and then we added on mergers and acquisitions team, we added on a banking team, we added on a wealth management team, we added on a forensic team that goes up in court, we added on a mortgages team, we added on a property team, and I just went about building the foundations and the building blocks. And that's when that's when we became solid. Yeah. And then when we became solid, I went back into sport. But we'd always done NGBs, we acted for a lot of national governing bodies. Yeah. And we'd always acted for a few clubs. We'd probably act for 7 or 8 football clubs, 7 or 8 rugby league clubs. And I went back in because I could see that more athletes were coming to us with the same problems they had before, with things in silly investments that I'd kind of done, you know, mates. I'd only invested in, a lot of them were friends that I'd invested in is the reality.
But these footballers come to you when they have a problem, or just in general? Or mostly when they have a problem?
I tell you what, when you've got money, people come to you when you've got a problem. Who said it the other week? Everybody, as soon as you've got some money, everybody's got a £5,000 problem. Can't think who said that, but it made me laugh. So I invested in what I thought was the right stuff, you know. Yeah. And I invested in people, and I got it wrong. But the thing is, I was young, and what I had was a fallback position. I had an income through being an accountant and my accountancy firm. Yeah. But I really focused on that then, and I built it up. And we've built it up to, as you said before, like 180 staff or something across 4 cities. And then we picked up quite a few testimonials. We always did testimonials. Did a lot of grassroots stuff with NG governing body level. And then we picked up clubs. And then I kind of went back into dealing with, when we opened our London office, it naturally led itself to 1 or 2 quite prominent boxers, that all of a sudden started to cascade out.
Yeah, yeah. So out of all the kind of sports and celebrities that you have, what's the financial culture like? What are they like in terms of financial education? What do you see there? Do you see any patterns, or do you like what you see, or you don't like what you see?
No, no, absolutely. You know, when you understand the value of money from a place where I come from, it's remarkable to see how people will latch onto athletes or media people and think that piece of money, it's almost like they think your job of being a footballer or being a boxer or being a musician or whatever it is, you earn all that money and it's easy money.
Yeah.
There's a real misconception, I think, that that's easy money. They don't understand all the disciplines you have to go through in order to prepare yourself for 20 years. You know, we talked about missing kids' birthdays and all that stuff before and Christmases.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's people around them industries that think, oh, if I do this and I earn 50 grand on the backhand, or if I get a retainer and it's 3, 4, 5 grand a month and I don't do that much for it, they feel like they're taking money from people, if you like, that don't deserve it. That's what I think the culture is. And I think as a result of that, you get two different types of people. You get those that are constantly investing in stupid stuff because they don't know any better. And you get the other side of people who think, I can't go anywhere near that, so I'm going to invest in nothing.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that's equally as bad. But the reality is you need to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, you need a couple of things. You need somebody you can trust. And the next thing you need, more than anything, is you need somebody that's going to educate you. Because if I get one of my players leave me, or one of the athletes leave me, if I've done my job right, you come with us for 5 years, you move to London or you move abroad, whatever it is, you should know to a reasonable degree about all your affairs.
Yeah.
You should understand what a yield looks like on a property portfolio that's good. You should understand what a yield or an income from stock market investments should look like. You should understand, because in layman's terms, which is where I think our profession is not the best, we can earn money by talking lingo that's going to bamboozle the average athlete and charge 250 quid an hour for it.
Yeah.
But what it really is our job to empower the athlete with knowledge to make the decisions.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's really bad in the culture. And so sometimes I'll get people come to me and I'll go, look, you look after it. I trust you, you look after it. I don't want to know this and this. And I go, no, that's not how this is going to be.
Yeah.
Because that's how it was last time when you brought me this mess. Now, the fact that you might trust me and I know I'm trustworthy doesn't mean that everybody else is in that same category. Yeah. You have to start to be able to understand what a revenue is, what a balance sheet is, what a cash flow looks like, how long you've got left when you retire with your current burn rate, the yields and all that kind of stuff. And it's not that difficult. People think it is, but I'm telling you, it's completely and utterly not. Like anybody who's relatively streetwise can learn about money. But you know the problem with this system? We're not supposed to. Yeah. We're not supposed to learn about money, because when the stock market crashes in my office, what do you think happens? All the old money, they go in. Not all the new money does. Fucking pulls it out and crystallises its loss. Yeah. And you're like, no. Because when you was at school, how many lessons did you have on money management?
No, none at all.
None. How many lessons did you have on tax? None. How many lessons did you have on the stock market and property? None. Yeah. The system's designed to let people have money. Yeah. Working class people. And then the system sucks it back out. That's a system problem that annoys me. So I'm quite passionate about that, as you can tell. And for me, what my job is to get to as many people, which is why I'm happy to be on the podcast, is to get to as many people to explain to them it's not scary. You don't have to be intellectual. You don't have to have A's and B's at maths to be getting, to be understanding logically what happens. Some people will learn quicker than others, but you need an advisor that's going to chat to you. Yeah. And it might be, you might like a coffee, you might like a beer. A lot of people, I know a lot of very, and you'll know this yourself from the changing rooms and stuff, people's stadium and people's changing room is their stage. And they're very comfortable in it. But you put them in a boardroom and all of a sudden they don't want to say too much.
100%. I know exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, for me, my stage is now a boardroom, right? So for me, it's for me. I'm confident in that arena, and it's for me to bring out the best of, the best of the client in there, make them feel comfortable. And if they don't like it there, then we go for coffees. If they don't like it there, we can go on the reggae bar and have a rum punch and talk about it. If they don't like, you know what I mean? We can have a game of pool in the Jordan suite or table tennis in the Fred Perry suite. And that's another reason why we design those rooms, coming back to your question.
Yeah. Do you know, that's such a really good point, and it's something I've experienced as well. It's also interesting what you said about how, these people have sacrificed and had crazy self-discipline for 20 years to earn the money that they've had. But then I see people themselves not taking their money seriously enough, and they've spent 20 years building it. So like you said, coming out your comfort zone in terms of going into boardrooms and learning about money is something that, if you respect what you've done enough, you should kind of push through that to understand everything, and they don't. Because I spoke to a few people, and now they obviously see what I post about, and I talk about money a lot, I talk about property a lot, and financial education. So a lot of them come to me and talk about certain things, whether they're buying a house, and they ask me, is this correct? Is this correct? And I'm like, oh, why don't you just get on the phone, ask your solicitor or ask your accountant. And he's like, I don't really like talking on the phone. Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? Why? I'm a bit worried about sounding stupid. I was like, that's crazy. That's something you got to do. You got to go through that. Just like when you learn how to play football, you're never scared to be bad at it. You just play it. You learn. You use what you have, the qualities you do have. But do you know what I mean? I think just seeing how tough it was to kind of get to where we are, to then I'm sure a lot of them have heard the risks of players going broke and after their career. So I just feel like it's something that I really want to push to take seriously.
It's really interesting, isn't it? And it might become a little bit controversial what I'm going to say, but I mean, I drive a 5-year-old CLS, right? In the back of it is like empty bottles of water, cans of what am I hooked on at the moment? These kombucha drinks, right? And people get in my car and they think, I wasn't expecting this. And I'm like quite proud of the fact that I can drive around in a 5-year-old CLS and I feel okay. Yeah. I don't need to feel like I need to go and get the next car and the next car and the next car. Yeah. Because, don't get me wrong, I'm as insecure as the next guy. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the stupid stuff that's done is born out of deep-rooted insecurities. Yeah. Right? It's born out of the arena is the stage, and on that stage there's a lot of confidence. But when you come off the stage, you don't have to have the best car in the car park for any reason other than your ego. Yeah, for sure. It'd be controversial, but I bet you if you spoke to a doctor, they'd agree with me, right? Because because what you really need is a security, if you ask me, indefinite. And there's enough money in sports for that to happen if you make the right disciplined decisions. Why would you be that disciplined for 20 years in your eating, in not seeing your kids on Christmas, in not celebrating, not going out with your mates, not enjoying all the things that you can't do, not even having a normal night out because you get bombarded. Yeah. If you're going to be ill-disciplined with the currency you get for that sacrifice. The currency is your wage. Yeah. And then it should be, you have to be equally disciplined. Yeah. So, but it doesn't help when there's the culture doesn't help, does it? Yeah, the culture definitely doesn't help. Yeah. The culture doesn't help, and I tell you what else doesn't help. Advisors who are quite happy to let it go. Yeah. Like I'm not happy to let it go. Mm-hmm. I'm not. I would tell somebody politely, but I would tell somebody like, the fuck have you got 4 cars for? Yeah. And why are they like this? Because you do know your burn rate is going to look like that by the time you leave your primary, your first career. So yeah, you know how, even like that, you know how people be like, oh, I don't need financial advice. No, what can you do? Well, you can only take a horse to water, can't you? You can't make it drink it. But it is the job. It is the job for us to, not everybody's like that for one, and it is the job I think for advisors to kind of see that vulnerability or that irrational spending and do something about it. We can't force it, but we have to try. But I feel like the advisors are just like, oh, you're buying another place in Miami. Yeah. Oh, yeah. good idea kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think you've got to question them. And I think over a period of time, as they get older, as they get more towards the end of the career, it might be, you might not get a player at 24 listening as much as one at 34.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a player about 6 months ago. I was with one of our wealth managers, and I think the player had, from memory, about 4 million quid. And he's going to retire in a year or so. 4 million quid's a lot of money, right? But when we worked out, he's not flash, he's not, he's by no means flash, but let's say his burn rate was 20k a month.
Yeah.
He was going to retire at 36, 37. At 20k a month burn rate, he's going to burn 240 grand, right? So he's going to burn that over 10 years, 2.4 million.
Mm-hmm.
By the time the current inflation at 8% or whatever we're at now, if he doesn't create revenue generating assets as soon as he can, and it should have been prior to 1 or 2 years before retirement, he's going to run out of money.
Yeah.
And this isn't a champagne spraying footballer.
Yeah.
This is a overseas European, very sort of practical. But he's in no investments because he didn't want to lose.
Do you know what's crazy is a lot of players in that position, sitting there looking at their bank account says 4 million, would think they're done, they're sorted forever, until you say something that basic.
Yeah.
And then
we're showing it on a graph. By the time he was 49, he had no money.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
he's got another 30 years of living.
Yeah. Was that like a what was his reaction like?
He couldn't believe it. And this is a sensible, in the sensibility of players.
The most sensible players.
This is an 8 or a 9.
This
isn't an Ocean Club champagne spraying, full car. This isn't nice house, nice car, family man. Been Premier League for at least the last 10 years that I can remember.
Yeah.
And literally 4 million quid's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
The thing about what 4 million quid can do, it can generate a lot of cash.
Yeah.
If you do something with it.
Yeah. So he just saved his entire career.
Because he was so scared of all the other changing room stories of people, people spending. Yeah. That he just sat on it, which I completely understand. Mm-hmm. But even that amount of money is not going to last long. Yeah.
Yeah. So was that a kind of thing like you showed it to him? He was like, "Wow, super shocked."
Yeah.
And it's like, "But you're lucky you're with us." And then you showed him another plan, right?
Yeah, and the thing is what I always try and do is it's the good part for me is I'm able to talk about my stuff.
Yeah.
I like that because I'm able to say, I'm not advising you to do this. What I'm saying is, mine looks like this, and I've got property that looks like that, or I've got this crypto that looks like this.
Yeah.
I've got some NFT stuff I'm dabbling in.
Yeah.
I'm like 5 or 10 grand in till I understand what the hell's going on. I'm not.
Yeah.
Some players come to me, athletes come to me, they're £500,000 in crypto. £500,000 in crypto, and I'm going, what do you understand about crypto? They haven't a clue.
Yeah.
But they're £500,000 in. So, coming back to what we talked about earlier, it's about education. So if a player comes to me now and says, hey, I want to go into crypto, I say, good move. Mm-hmm. Good move. Put the minimal amount of money in that you can for the next 6 to 12 months. Try some things, learn the different exchanges, learn a bit about it by all means. Buy 1 or 2 NFTs, not at 50 and 100 grand, at 3 or 5 grand or something, whatever is within your means really, to learn what's happening with the NFT, because it's not going anywhere. Yeah. Crypto and NFT is not going anywhere, but it's completely unregulated, and I don't think anybody really knows yet how they're going to make money out of it, because the only way you make money out of it now is somebody with influence goes in and tells everybody he's gone in, and then the market booms. Yeah. And then who knows, maybe they sell out straight after that announcement, you don't know. Yeah. So, but that's sticking around forever. So put something in and learn and educate yourself.
So what is the advice that you give to these sports people look like? So you've got the footballers, you've got the boxers, they're all in pretty much similar positions, aren't they? They're very similar industries. They're coming in, they've got no idea whatsoever about what to invest in. They've made good money. Yeah. They're a little bit scared money. What kind of advice do you normally give? What does it look like?
What you really want is income generating assets. That's very important here. Yeah. If there's one takeout from this, whatever assets you're on or you're looking to build, you want income generating ones. Mm-hmm. Because in the end, when you retire, the thing you lose is income generating assets. Yourself as the income generating asset. And I find one of the most common mistakes that or errors that come to me. I've got one guy with a property portfolio in London, 7 million, 4 million of mortgages, less than 1% yield.
Yeah.
Right? It's virtually zero.
Yeah.
He has £7 million worth of property and zero.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's he done? He's invested in areas that are nice areas. So the market will go up, but it will go down.
That's a
if
good
you
point.
have to sell when it goes up and down,
Yeah.
London's not the best for yields.
Yeah.
Up north, you tend to get better. You've got things like multiple occupancies, HMO type stuff. You've got social care housing. There's all these other. So there's these property things. There's some commercial properties. Starbucks. You can get like 6-7% yields from Starbucks for 25 years. So if you bought 3 or 4 Starbucks at the age of 35, you'd have an income you'd have a lease on them until you're 60.
Yeah.
So there's safer ones. So you need to get into somebody who understands some property. You need to, but you don't want it all tied up in property either, because it's not liquid cash.
Yeah.
And in a down market, you might not be able to sell. So you need to have some in the stock market.
Yeah. But if you're cash flowing good though,
Huh?
you're normally alright. If you're cash flowing well from the properties,
Yeah, true.
usually alright, right?
True. Yeah, true. But if I was speaking to and I'm not an IFA, in my wealth team would say now, you don't put everything in any one basket.
Yeah.
You don't go all in on property. In a way, you don't go all in on the stocks. You don't go all in on gold. You don't go all in on ISAs. What you need is somebody who's going to guide you a portfolio.
Yeah.
And that will be risky or less risky depending on your situation and your ability to withstand the risk.
Yeah.
But so you need a mix of everything, and you need education on all of it. And it doesn't have to be overnight, and I don't mean it's a lesson, but I mean over a few years. If you can start investing in your future as early as you can, you start learning as early as you can, don't you?
Yeah,
How old are you now? And how long have you
28.
known about property?
Properly since 26, 25,
So
26.
if you've got another 10 years in the game, imagine where you're going to be when you're 14, 15 years of understanding property.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so true what you said, because I was in the exact same position. And a lot of footballers do this, and I think a lot of other sportsmen do this as well, is everything they buy, when we're talking property, they buy and look for capital appreciation all the time.
Yeah.
They disregard how much cash flows monthly, and that's the main thing that you need. So with mine, when I bought, at that time when I was maybe about 22, 23, I bought 2 apartments, which at the time I thought, this property is good, it's better than me spending it, like what we were talking about before. But then when I got educated, and then I worked out something so basic like what an ROI is. And then I worked out, I was like, oh, interesting, let me work out what my ROI is on these places that I've got. Nothing, almost nothing. Yeah. I was like, I've done this wrong. So I have to sell up. And then when I started finding more opportunities, obviously sold them, put them into better projects. Yeah. That cash flow, that give me income away from the game. Yeah. And even that just makes you feel more confident, secure in yourself and your career, and obviously get injuries and things like that. So that's a good point that you brought up.
I had a woman, a female footballer come in, I don't know, about 4 or 5 weeks ago. She had 2 properties. Everything she owned basically is in those 2 properties. All her assets is the equity of those 2 properties, yielding 4%. And I'm like, why have you got them? And she was like, because when I was at that club, I bought that one. Then I went to another club.
Just bought that one.
And I'm going, yeah, but let's have a look at this. You're a female footballer in the game. I think she's probably mid-30s was my guess. And you've got a few years left in you, and all your equity is tied up in 2 properties because you used to live in them when you played there.
Yeah.
But what about the yield? The yield was like 3-4%. Yeah.
That's so normal, you know.
Of course it is.
Yeah. That's why even from now I make it a point. My missus always on me she wants to buy a house, to settle a forever house. I'm like, we're not buying. Yeah. We're going to rent everywhere we go until maybe we get to a point where we can do that. Yeah. So that's something that it's quite normal. A lot of players do that. They go somewhere, they buy, they move, they rent that one out, or they sell it.
And I can totally understand it as well. You totally understand that.
Yeah.
But you might as well, if you've got equity in a property, you might as well understand, is it efficient equity in a property? Yeah. Is it income generating as much as it should be? Yeah. So how would we advise a player like that when they were coming towards the end? We'd say, here's your burn rate, here's your assets. This is the income we think you should be able to get to leverage those assets. I think the female player was talking about just before, I don't think she had any mortgages on them
Oh, she's bad.
which
Outright.
is another.
Yeah.
It's not, rule number one in property really is leverage the properties and buy more
100%,
property, within reason, obviously. But she had all her equities in non-income generating. But so
interesting.
we would pull together with that amount of money what we think with a diverse investment portfolio across different things. We would and we'd say, here's how it looks. This is your income generation. And I think when we did it with him, he moved on to something like 68, 69 or something from 48, 49 by investing the money in a diverse portfolio of stuff.
Yeah.
Big
Interesting.
difference.
I wanted to kind of go into a little bit about you and like your mindset and where you was at mentally when you like started your business, and then kind of throughout the journey. So I know you mentioned that at the time before when you first started your business, you kind of had that point where you were really pushing. What was kind of driving you at that point? Would you say?
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure.
And that's today.
Yeah.
I woke up last night. We turn over 15 million quid, and I woke up last night thinking, it could go all wrong, this. So it's that kind of, it's a fear of failure. And so that's what drives me every single day, if I'm honest with you.
Do you reckon that ever goes?
No. I was with Pete Cowgill, who's the owner of JD, on my podcast, and I know him quite well anyway. And he's 67 now. And he's just driven every day by the stock market price and the fear of failing, the fear of, and so I don't think that ever goes. When I spoke to him last, he was at 12 billion of value, JD, and the market's crashed because of the war. To a degree, it's not crashed, but it's gone down. Yeah. So JD's worth less now. So the fact he was once worth 12 bill and it's now worth 7 bill, he'll see that as a failure.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
he's on a drive to then push it back up.
So he'll be on the drug to get it back up to over 12, and that's a fact. So it's the same. It's a fear of failure, really. Everything I do, I don't mind. I take hits. I was talking before. I invest in stuff, nutrition brands, sportswear brands. Like to invest in consumer stuff, and I don't mind if some of them fail. Yeah. But my main business can't fail.
Yeah. But what does that look like to you? Because so for him going from 12 to 7, everyone's saying it's not a failure. He's still at 7 billion.
Yeah.
For me, when you first said fear of failure, I thought you meant, well, the idea that I got is you losing everything.
Yeah.
What does failure look like to you?
Imagine I had to make somebody redundant, like one person.
Is that okay?
That would be failure to me.
Yeah.
So just making one person redundant I'd feel like a failure. So
that wouldn't be a hit to you. That would be a failure.
That would be a failure.
Losing
an investment would be a hit. But yeah, I don't know. I'm driven by a vision. I'm driven by a mission that I feel like I'm on. Probably driven by my ego. If you truth for the matter.
That can never be fully eliminated, can it?
Yeah. And in terms of numbers, I remember honestly, I always remember thinking when I was 25 or when I was 24, I think I went on 25 grand a year. I was like, wow, this is a lot of money. I'm like, I had this thing in my head, this goal of always have £1,000 of revenue for wages for every year you are. So 24 grand, be on 24 grand. When you get to 30, make sure you're on 30. Yeah. But by the time it's 24, it was like, okay, I've gone past that. What now? Then it's like I want my own business.
Yeah.
And I started it with with a mate of mine who's been with me from the start. And he just laughs at me now because the original goal was like, imagine we can do 20 grand a month. That was it. We got there in the first year, and then I was like, I didn't even consider it. I'm like, imagine we did 50, and then we get to 50 grand a month.
Yeah.
And then it was, imagine we do 83, because that's £1 million quid a year.
Yeah.
And not once did I think, we got 50 grand a month.
Yeah. That was kind of the question I was asking you before, when you first started, to where you are now. If you could have a peek into the future, would you be astounded, like, wow, I've done that? Or like, that's what I
don't think I'd be astounded. It's just, it's like, have I hit my ceiling yet? No.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go again. Then it was like, I don't know, 100 grand a month. I was like, then I'm going to be happy. Then when we do 100 grand a month, I'm going to be happy. Then it was 500 grand a month. No, 250, 500. Then it was $1 million. And then when I got to £1 million a month, I thought, seriously, like, this is just not,
Yeah.
it's not even, it's a bit Roy Keane-ish in that way that it's like,
Never satisfied.
he never even understood, you know, he never even went out with the guys for a beer afterwards. So I've never celebrated a win, if you like that, when I've hit something. And in the end, you just realise, when I look at Pete at JD, I think, well, if you're doing it in the billions, then you've got to have a greater purpose.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things in coming back to athletes that they really struggle with more than finance is purpose.
Yeah,
Full stop.
And
it's a bit like in my game, if somebody sells out of a business, you know, we sold a company to JD for like 50 million or something. The last deal, we've done a couple with them, and the guy's 30 odd.
Yeah.
And he rang me up, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he goes, sat in my car. And I'm like, have you got the money in? And he's like, yeah. And I went, what are you doing now? And he went, I don't fucking know what to do. And I'm like, but where are you? And he goes, I'm outside David Lloyd. I think I'm going to go to the gym and do a session. And then every day for a few days, he's on a podcast of mine, so he won't mind me telling his story.
Yeah.
Every day for a few days afterwards, no, for weeks, for months afterwards, is like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And the thing about him is, and this is common knowledge on a podcast, I knew of the guy we're talking about, and I'd give him a bit of advice before, but he wanted a client, and I'd bumped into him in Dubai a couple of Christmas, not last Christmas, the Christmas before, and I goes, how's it going? And he said, let's have a couple of beers, and it was an excuse for me to get away from my 4 kids, so I go and have a few beers with him, and he says, I've got this offering from a German consolidator, like the Hook Group, if you've come across them, where they buy lots of consumer brands, put them on a big site. And I goes, what's the deal? He told me the deal, it's massive, he's 30 odd. And I go, what's the guy like that's buying it? He goes, don't like him, don't think we're going to get on. I'm like, okay, what are you going to do next? And he's like, I've got to do an earn out. It's what you do when you sell a business, usually, a couple of years to bed it in. And then he goes, then I don't know. And I'm like, this is not a good deal for you. Forget the cash.
Yeah.
Where's your purpose? So in the end, he's launched JD Beauty. So now he's gone from one purpose to something equally purposed.
Yeah.
And that was the reason he did that deal. And I think linking that into business is the same as 2 years from retirement.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to be repurposed?
Yeah.
Because all that discipline, all that you have to do.
Energy, it's got to go somewhere else, isn't it?
Yeah, you no longer have to do it.
Yeah.
You ain't going to be told to do it. It's going to become a choice.
Yeah.
A mate of mine's a boxer, or he was a boxer, John Murray, and he ended up, John, headlined MGM Grand, he headlined Madison Square Garden, he retired 33-3, and the day he retired, that sport discarded him. Nobody's interested, and there's no coming out in the lights, and in that game you don't earn a lot of money unless you're the top.
Yeah.
So there's very few that have money to retire on in that game, or even invest. And he said it was like being a 32-year-old, 16-year-old. Because for 16 years, it was, here's your fight, here's your training, here's your food, here's your sleep, here's your rest, here's your recovery. And this will be like, it's like meeting, you know, I'm teaching you the converted here, and then it's like, bam, and then what? And people say to me, oh, I've had offers for my business. I couldn't sell that business.
Yeah.
What would I do?
Yeah.
I'd be sat on the beach every day, drinking beer. I'd be playing sport in the morning, drinking beer in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So
you hear it a lot. But to be fair, you're actually the first person who's actually made the relation to selling the business and retiring, which is a really good point. It's literally exactly the same thing.
It's the same.
So I hear a lot of people saying that as well. Like I know, obviously some of the guys from the team used to work with, Steve Bartlett and Don McGregor, Social Chain.
Yeah.
They talk about it quite a lot. How when they sold it, they just had no purpose whatsoever. Like felt like it was the worst decision ever.
Yeah.
So it's obviously a massive thing.
Yeah.
So how would you, if that was to happen to you?
Yeah.
Or would you ever sell your business?
No, this is probably the first answer. One of the things is though, the business gets to a point where it doesn't rely on me.
Yeah. So you feel like you're away from.
So then you start maybe losing some purpose gradually. But you see, the thing is for me now, because for my purpose is no longer numbers.
Yeah.
As I've just explained, my purpose is how much I can give back, how much change I can create.
Yeah.
So that's what drives me now. That's an unlimited amount of driven.
Yeah.
You
By the way,
can't
I say that's the ultimate goal of the money game. You make enough money where yourself is sorted. It's no longer about money, no longer about the numbers. Now it's all right. With that money, what impact can I make?
Yeah. And so that's where we're at. So like the mission statement of our business
Yeah.
is not to be anything other than it's to create change in the communities we exist in.
Yeah.
And so our foundation is going to get set up this year, and that will give me an infinite amount of missions, won't it? Because we can't help enough people. Because I realised I wasn't getting any self-satisfaction from the numbers being hit.
Yeah.
So if I was a player, what would I be doing? So I'm already thinking ahead.
Yeah.
As my business becomes less dependent, my purpose becomes less. What do I need to do? And I'm like, okay, there needs to be a seamless transaction. A transition, should I say, from being completely at the face and dominant in the business that I'm in to not being, and then being repurposed and refocusing. And so if I was any athlete with 2 to 3 years, I'd be focusing now on what I wanted to transition into. And I've heard sometimes like boxers, they go, no, because we've got world championship fights. But listen, in the background, you can always have stuff drumming.
Yeah,
like,
always.
You're not less committed now because you're doing this podcast than what you was before you did this podcast. There's stuff
People think
going on. Yeah, it's things, unless you dip in form, then you're going to get it. But there's enough time to be able to do other stuff and make sure you know. And it might just be learning, because sure. I remember the second client we ever had was a footballer, and he'd invested in some stupid stuff, invested in all his mates' stuff, a nightclub, and a large chunk of it went into a club. And I've lost my train of thought with that now. Where was I going with that story?
So he made a few. Talking about purpose.
And so from then on, every single time that I spoke to a retiring player or a player that was in sort of the 30s, it was about start learning now before you invest. If you think that you want to get into business, start learning now.
Yeah.
If you don't learn with your money, don't learn once you put your money in.
Yeah.
Learn before you've put your money in. Listen, there's nothing. I've just invested in a sportswear brand. Like, I know the game inside and out and how tough it is, and we might not get through. And I know a lot of people in that world, and we still might not get it off the ground because you can't back a winner every single time.
Yeah.
But you've got to give yourself the best shot, haven't you? So if you think I'm interested in fashion, I might want to invest in fashion. Go for it, but do so with 2 rules, right? Learn about it first, and the second part, if you're going to invest, please invest with someone that's already made money.
Yeah. And then partner up.
Partner up with somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because the problem with these industries is it's full of money. Somebody comes along, I'm going to open a sportswear brand, or I'm going to open a nutrition brand, and I want to use your money to do it. And you come back to me with, and what have you done in nutrition before? Yeah. Oh, I've got this great idea. Have you seen what's happened with Gymshark? Have you seen what's happened with My Protein? Have you seen what's happened with, well, this is the next Gymshark, this is it. And I go to any of my athletes, I don't care if it's your brother, your sister, or your best friend or anything. When you've earned that money, you deserve, I think, with the discipline you've put in. If you're a world-class player, you don't want to work with me because I can't trap a bag of cement. So when I play with you, you're going to get pissed off with me. When you pass the ball to me and I don't trap it, or I ping one to you and you have to run 50 yards to catch it, you're going to get fed up. So in business, why would you go in business with me if I can't ping a ball straight to you?
100%.
Because, and that's it's the most common mistake.
Yeah.
It's the most common mistake. But I was talking about, and I won't say the name, but I had with some musicians and rappers and stuff. I'm telling you now, they only invest in people who have already sold out for millions in that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the rule. They don't have people coming in with 3 ideas of how to get a nutrition brand off the ground, and he picks one.
Yeah.
If he wants to go into nutrition, we find somebody who's sold out of nutrition for 40 million quid. And we say, hey, we think this brand's aligned with doing a nutrition brand, and we know you've sold a nutrition brand, and we think there's a fit.
Yeah.
And that's how to do business, if you ask me.
I think that's so clever, and that's what I do in any property deal that I do. I'd never do one by myself ever. But it's so true. And even I know a few players, quite a handful now, that have clothing brands. Some of them they've been building it for a few years. Some of them are new. Yeah. And then there's one guy who asked for a bit of advice. I said, look, I don't know anything about clothing brands. I'm not that savvy in business yet. But one thing I do know for a fact is go and find someone who's built a really good clothing brand. And then coincidentally, I was actually going to interview someone on a podcast who built a really good clothing brand.
Yeah.
I said, come to the podcast. Come and just listen in, and you can meet him after, speak to him. He didn't turn up. But to be fair, it actually got cancelled, the episode anyways. Okay. But he didn't know that. So I'm just like, come on.
Yeah.
If you really want to take this seriously, that's probably the best way you can do things. That's why you got it spot on.
Yeah.
Especially for us who spent our whole careers learning nothing but one thing. You just got to leverage, other people's knowledge, and the way the world is a little bit. As a footballer, people kind of maybe more just feel obliged to help you a little bit more because maybe they know your position, that you're just in one field, or maybe they're interested in football themselves and they want to. Yeah. They want to speak to a footballer because that's what they're interested in.
And the thing is it's like, why do I surround myself with people? I try to say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to change rooms, is a saying, isn't it? But with me, I always think with sports people, I'm just very aligned with how they think. Yeah. I mean, there must be a sport in me that I should have done, but I just didn't do it. You know what I mean? Because mindset-wise, you want to be around people in the right mindset. Yeah. So you'll always find an entrepreneur that's sold out for 40 million in nutrition, want to do another nutrition brand with a sports person. Yeah. It's just the way it is. Or a fashion guy who's just sold out, or a woman who's just sold out. They're always going to want to do it with people who have got a similar mindset. Yeah. And sporting people have a mindset of excellence in general. Yeah. So business people want to do it, and vice versa, the other way round. But it takes sometimes it takes a bit more ballsiness for the athlete to reach out to the business owner, because it's not their area of expertise. But the amount of times I say to people, your status in the game is this, champion of the world, and you've got a guy who's telling you he's going to set you up one of these, what do you call them, like training programs where you can put your face on it. He's going to do it. It's 50-50. And he's never done it before. Don't get me wrong. If somebody came and said, hey, I've got this technology that I've built. I've done it with this Joe Wicks. I provide the technology, he provides the face. By the way, X and Y, world champion. You put your face to it and I think it looks like this. Now we're in. Somebody who's like, I've got this idea of training, because of COVID, everybody's training at home. And if you did it because you're the world champion, I can build the app, but we need 100 grand to get it off the ground. Yeah. Come on. You don't do 20 years of discipline to be the top of your game, to be world class, excellent, wherever you fall on that thing, and then go and work with somebody who's, you wouldn't work with me if I just turned up at training tomorrow with you and said, I fancy a game. I think I'm pretty good at this. Yeah. You wouldn't play with me.
I actually had this conversation not too long ago. I can't actually remember who it was with, but I asked, and see, because I've kind of immersed myself in business over the last few years, I've obviously met a lot of people in different industries of business that I actually see maybe even have more of an elite mindset than a lot of athletes that I know. Right. And some of the most like amazing minds that I've met in the last few years have been from business as opposed to football. And I always think, and a lot of them guys wanted to be footballers, but they never made it. And I used to always think, what is it? Why couldn't they make it when their minds are that elite? Maybe even more elite than the athletes. I kind of try and figure that out, because I feel like to build what certain people build and what you've built requires the same, or maybe at times even more, because you've got to have the drive and all the raw qualities that we need to have, but you also need to be quite clever, quite intelligent. A lot of footballers are not. We don't study, so we're not that clever and intelligent. So always try and work that out. So what do you think? What do you think that is?
I think it's a really interesting question, because I've never really looked at it like that. I've always looked at it like the mindset of an Alistair Brown. I mean, I look at athletes because I know from I'd say athletes rather than footballers, because we have a mix. And I'm just intrigued by how you win a gold medal twice if you're Alistair Brown, or how you win the world heavyweight title, or whatever it is. I'm like completely intrigued with that excellence, and I've always just put it down to that, like the best business minds, when I put them in a room with sports people, the sports athletes who are elite that I've spoken to or they've been in a room with the best business, everyday athletes, I call them.
Yeah.
I call us everyday athletes, trying to get to this high performance on a day-by-day basis. It's like there's just been a meeting of minds. So I've always seen them as that rather than one being more driven than the other. And why didn't I don't know why I didn't make it as a footballer, if I'm honest with you. Like, I don't know. I think there's a bit more. I think there's.
But where do you think you are mentally now compared to when you was in the pursuit of that?
Exactly the same.
The same?
Yeah,
really?
yeah. You know, I was talking about being 11 and crying because I didn't win.
Yeah.
And I remember there was Player of the Year, and they went, there's 15 votes. And I used to hate myself for this, but I actually am okay with it now. I only sold this about 6 months ago when I was speaking to Alistair Campbell, who wrote a book, Winners.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great book, by the way, for anybody out there. It's about Floyd Mayweather, Sugar Ray Leonard, and it's about elite business people and politicians, so it's a good book. But I remember being 11 and I was the best player on the team. And I knew I was the best player on the team because we scored about 60 goals and I got about 52 of them, but I was just bigger than everyone else right at the time.
Yeah.
So they've said, right, you're going to have to go in for Player of the Year, Player's Player. But you can vote yourself. So I'm voting and I thought, well, I'm the best player. So I voted for myself to make sure I got the vote to win. So when it comes out, there's 15 votes and it come out, Paul Cheetham, 15. So my dad knows I voted for myself now.
Yeah.
So I get in the car with my award and I'm buzzing. And my dad goes ballistic at me. Absolutely ballistic at me. Like, you've embarrassed me. You've got no sportsmanship in you. You know, I can't remember what he went into me, but I remember like going home and I never even wanted to look at that award ever again.
Yeah.
I felt so guilty and so bad until about the last 6 months when I realised back then I had that spirit of winning.
Yeah.
And so I had it then and I had it now. But that spirit of winning still wasn't enough. So mindset wasn't enough, clearly, for me to... What actually happened physically was I was so big when I was 11, just tall, that I could just like push people out of the way and just head the ball in, boot the ball.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't learn any skills, is the practical reason.
Yeah.
When I got to 13, I went from being the best player, junior, in my team, to being average.
Yeah,
By the time
common.
I was 14, I was useless.
That's actually really common, to be fair.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then what happened when I left school, I had to work weekends, so I didn't play football from 16 to 21. When I started playing again, I always played for teams where they pay 50 quid a game but I was always the worst player in the team. It was always ex-pros from here and him who'd been released from there, and it was me.
Yeah.
But I always played for teams where I was the worst, but I always had the winning mentality more than anyone else.
Yeah.
So I always captained most teams, even though I was the worst player. So that mentality was always there. But physically, what actually happened was I developed no skill set at 11 and 12.
Okay.
And when
That makes
everyone
sense.
caught up to me, I
Yeah,
could
that makes
jump.
sense.
People going, oh, you make a good centre half, you're 6'3". Fucking jump about 2 inches because I wasn't used to it, you know.
Yeah.
So I had no adaptability. You know, if you go back to what's it called, the law of Darwin's evolution, I was the opposite. I'd not learnt to do anything because it all come easy. Then when they was all the same size as me, they could all jump, I couldn't.
Yeah. And obviously at the time that didn't come into mind.
No.
That you didn't.
No.
You wasn't developing any
No,
skills.
I was puzzled though. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like my mind was going, how's he got better than me? How's he got better? And he was like, they were useless like last season, and now all of a sudden I was sub. I'm like, hey, I used to score 80% of the goals of the business, you know, of the team.
Yeah.
And so that was a talent. It wasn't talented enough, and there was sometimes you're better off being an underdog.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Sometimes they say, like a lot of kids who were born I'm a 28th of June kid, so I was one of the youngest in my year, and they always say the youngest in the years are the ones that they have to.
They've got to be quite cunning. They've got to figure out other ways when they're getting beat up all the time, and you've got to be a bit more clever, for sure. Because they're normally the small players, always more the technical players. Yeah. Because they have to find another way.
There you go.
Yeah, no,
so I think, but in general, I think there's a meeting of minds.
Yeah.
And I see some ways where sports people operate, and I'm just like intrigued by their pursuit of high performance.
Yeah.
Now, good question, because what happens sometimes at 36, they lose the pursuit of high performance. So what happens is they retire and all of a sudden they put on weight.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden they don't sleep as well. They don't eat as well. But I don't understand that, because as an everyday athlete, let's call it, somebody who wants to be a high-performing dad or a high-performing son or a high-performing owner or a high-performing friend, like every day should be about high performance. The channel can be football, or it could be business, or it could be being a high-performing dad.
You know, it's so true, you know. Yeah, so true.
It's the only
you know how much
channel
energy
is
it is
different.
being a dad or being a mum, and that's why, you know, in our house we're really like that. We're all about health and well-being and making sure we're drinking enough, we're eating enough, because just the demands of just being a parent is ridiculous.
So like 10 years ago I used to talk about this. It's becoming more common. There's like nootropics coming out, the kombucha drinks and all the nutrition that's coming out. A lot of it's now non-sports. A lot of it you'll see is more everyday nutrition than it is sport, because it's hard work. You have your kids for a weekend, and if you're eating crap and you're having beers every night and you've got the kids, your missus goes away, you've got the kids for 4 days, you ain't the best dad. You're not a high-performing dad for your kids. And so the channel is just a channel. Yeah. But how do we wake up tomorrow, I think? How do I wake up tomorrow? And no matter what I've got to do, if I've got to do a school run or I've just got 10 business meetings, that's my channel. Yeah. But I can enter that channel in a way that gives me the best opportunity to perform. Yeah. And it shouldn't just be for sports people. Yeah, no, definitely. I think one thing as well that obviously people are listening, and what I've realised is that you're obviously quite big on personal development. Yeah. How would you say, what kind of relation would you have from improving as a person and personal development to improving your business and making more money? You said there's like a direct correlation between the two. I think there's I think in anything, if you're a footballer, right? If you're a footballer and you're trying to get peak performance, there's two ways of doing it. You either concentrate on the results or you can concentrate on the behaviours. Yeah. In the end, if you concentrate on the behaviours, the results will come. Mm-hmm. It's the same in developing organisations or people. Like, when you first start a business, what you're really trying to do is pay the wages. And you become very results driven in a way that a manager or whatever, or a player, they want to like score goals if you're, you know, or whatever it is that your stat is that you're being looked upon. But in reality, all the results come in the end once you've got behaviours. Yeah. And so the behaviours have to be the fundamentals. And from the behaviours, there will be developments. And if you develop the right behaviours, the results will come. Yeah. And that is a fact. They will come in the end. In the same way, Man City get results. Yeah. And Man United don't. Yeah. And it's not as one for one as what people might think. You know, I know you would only pick one United player or something in the Man City squad now because they all gel. Mm-hmm. But if you actually lined up player for player, there's not that much difference between it. Yeah. But the behaviours and the culture is what makes a difference, and Liverpool's exactly the same. Yeah. I think Everton have spent more than Liverpool, but the culture's right, the leadership's right, the organisation fundamentals are correct. And so it's about self-development first, and results will become afterwards. Now, it's not easy to do that all the time. Yeah, especially when there's no results coming in, right? Correct. That's when it's even harder. Mm. But you can get results are temporary. What is it Michael Owen said? Form is temporary and talent is... Class is... Yeah, something like that. Yeah, yeah. He said. Class is permanent. Yeah. Is that Michael Owen? So he said slightly different words. One, because his was about talent and form, I think. But it was the same principle. Yeah, same principle. The same principle is, he said, it's actually in Alistair Campbell's book, Winners. Michael Owen says he never got down when he didn't score for 7 games. Yeah. Because he fundamentally knew, I just keep doing the same behaviours and I'm not changing anything. As long as I don't change anything, the goals will come. Yeah. And it's that same principle in business. I think a lot of business owners trip up because they don't have all the health fundamentals you guys might have. Yeah. So they don't have the nutritionist, they don't have the recovery coach, they don't have the sleep expert, they don't have the physio, and they don't have the psychologist. Are these some of the things that you implement yourself? Yeah. All of them? All of them. Yeah. All of them. Because if you're going to be an elite performer, forget the channel. Yeah. Just be an elite performer, and let's realise that the channel's the channel. Yeah. Do you get a sense of when you kind of tell people about things like that
they look at you a bit strange.
They used to, and they still slightly do, but it's
But now, when you start getting results, then it starts
well,
making sense,
when you
right?
start getting results, so you have more of a platform, I guess, to speak, or a bigger mouthpiece. But the other side is, the world is changing like that. It's like gaming. The amount of nutrition brands coming out for gamers now is off the scale.
Yeah.
Because the whole idea that you used to be sat with 2 bottles of bud and a pizza in playing at FIFA has gone out the window when you can win £1 million for winning a virtual game. So those guys are on. You know, the nutrition that's coming out for those people, that's non-physical stuff. And that's lending itself to every day. You know, don't forget, in the 80s, they only just started setting up gyms. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't even a gym before 1986 or whatever. Yeah. I remember, like, I'm 43, so when somebody used to go for a run, you know, all the kids used to sing, I can't remember the chant that we used to have. You know, we used to take the mick out of people going running because you'd see one person. Yeah. I go out for a run in my village and it's like a mini marathon, you know, I'll bump into maybe 40, 50, 60 runners. So there's a complete change to health consciousness. And I think there is a massive change to nutrition that used to come out in my protein, whey protein for bodybuilding. It's now coming out for that everyday individual, because even the shapes 10, 15 years ago or 10 years ago, it was like whey protein because you wanted that big look, people wanted that big look. Now they want that athletic, leaf, more of a footballer look. That's a look in the gyms now. You don't see many XXXX bodybuilders. So I feel like it's more of a general health and well-being. And I think some people think I'm a bit mad, but I'm in a different pool of people. Do you get what I mean? Some people would listen to this and think he's from just a normal everyday background and think he's off his head. But the people that I'm around, if they're not sports athletes, they are everyday athletes. They're business owners that are.
It makes sense to them.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. One thing I wanted to ask as well, it's actually not something I usually ask because I don't actually believe in it, but I'll get your take on it, is, well, I'll start off with, have you ever had any troubles with like happiness? As in being happy or being maybe...
Every day.
Every day?
Every day. So first of all,
so?
the first thing is I suffer from anxiety.
Okay.
So when I was when I just set the business, I had panic attacks. Yeah. I didn't know what they were. I don't know if you've ever had one or not, but they're scary as, like... Really? They're terrifying. So that was the first...
Do you know where they stem from? Do you know what caused it?
I'm not quite sure. I'll tell you what did cause it. I'll tell you what causes them. Because I'm always focusing on the future and never the present and never the now.
And still now I
try my very best not to. Yeah. Now I try to meditate or pull myself back in, do something that's not constantly sort of frenzied with more success or more things to do or the next milestone. So back then, I think that's what did it. And I used to think that was like my A game. I thought the more frenzied I felt, like in my hands, I'd feel like I'm fucking walking out for a battle every morning. And I thought, that's what's giving me my point of difference. But it went over. And I mean, it was 6 months of chaos, mental chaos. Yeah. So when I got through that, and I still measure my anxiety levels every day, I just give them a rating, and that determines how I live my day. Right. So there's no way I would have caffeine if I was a 5 out of 10. There's no way I would go for a beer if I'm a 5 out of 10, because I know with a hangover I'm going to be an 8. And an 8 quickly can be a 10. And a 10 is you're in A&E. Yeah. Thinking you're having an heart attack. So it can escalate pretty quick. So there's, if I feel like I'm getting shaky, I meditate. I always drink 2 litres of water a day. I'll have a pretty healthy diet. Yeah. That's why I do that. That's why I got the bottle of 2.2 litres. Yeah, to make sure water. If I have that, I know I've had 2.2 There you go. And I won't drink caffeine after 10. So I'll have 2 coffees. Sometimes I'll have 3 in the morning if I really want. If that's a treat to me to have an extra coffee, then it feels like I'm pretty okay with stuff. But in terms of happiness, I think when you're searching for something, you're always worrying why enough's not enough. Yeah. You're always wondering why is $500,000 not enough? Why is $1 million not enough? Yeah. When does this end? What point does a happiness trigger come about? Yeah. And
but for you speaking to you, do you not feel like that's separate? As in like happiness and then pushing for... people try to put it together too much, I think.
I think sometimes you can overthink things, so I try not to overthink anything like that anymore.
Yeah.
Because it always sends me under, to be honest with you. But I can't genuinely, if I go, I'm the type of person that when I'm not with the kids, I want to be with the kids. When I'm with the kids, I can't wait to get away from the kids. When we go on holiday, me and my missus we go in away we do get away from our kids. Probably once a month for a couple of days, just to have our time off, right? But so all month I'm like, get me to Nicky Beach, and I sent it before, that's why I'm laughing, because trust me, when we land the week on Saturday, we won't even be off the plane and we'll be going, oh, we should have brought the kids.
Talking about the kids, yeah.
And all we do then is she gets off the flight, we FaceTime the kids, we spend 2 days talking about the kids. We've been home 5 minutes later and we're like, we shouldn't have talked about the kids when we did. And we do that every month. So, I think you're always searching for stuff. I'll tell you one thing, if there is people struggling, I thought my 30s was really difficult. I thought I was in no man's land. And I wouldn't swap my age 43 now for my 30s.
Right.
I feel I'm in the same shape. I live a similar life, but my headspace was a bit more less overthinky. I was constantly like, why am I not happy? I could constantly get, or they'd be a bit more volatile. I'd celebrate the wins a bit more. Yeah. And the losses would devastate me. And I felt like, and I'm talking about life losses there and life wins. And so my 30s were a bit of a jumble of being really high and really low. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I don't do any drugs or anything like that. And I try to control my alcohol, but I do like a beer. That's like my little vice. Yeah.
Having the panic attacks, do you reckon that's played a massive part in why you're so health conscious? Would you be like how you are? Like that.
I mean, I've always, because I loved sport. Yeah. I've always trained. I've trained every day since I was probably 14. Yeah. I might have one day a week off. So I've always been into that. I've always slept relatively well, and I didn't used to eat that well because you don't have to really in your 20s if you're not. Yeah. You can get away with it, but I've always been body conscious anyway. So I've always wanted to train, but I went into overdrive, particularly with meditating. Meditation was massive, and some people who are stressed or they're anxious and they come to me and I'm like, have you meditated? And it doesn't work. And I'm like, how many times have you tried it? Twice. Mm-hmm. And I go, have you ever run a marathon? No. Well, if you're about to, how are you going to train for that? Because your brain needs the same training as every other organ that we have. Course, yeah. So if you're going to go and bench press, you ain't going to go and bench press 100 kg when you walk in the gym. You're going to put 10 on each side. Yeah. Then you're going to put 2.5 on, and then you're going to go 15. And before you know it, you're at 20, and you might progress from there. It's the same with meditation. Mm-hmm. You need to do it. If you're somebody who feels any type of anxiety, but even dishappiness, when you're unhappy. Yeah. Think what you learn about being unhappy is, if you was unhappy now and I put some music on that give you a good feeling and brought you into the moment, you'd to become happy.
I say this all the time.
By the way, I can make you sad. Yeah. If I knew you well enough, I knew something that touched your heart with a thingy, I could put it on and that could make you melancholy like that. So we know we can change one another like that. So long as people, this is why he's talking about, I'm happy to talk about it all day long, because we actually hold the tools that we need to help other people. Because I could make you sad now. Yeah. And I could make you really happy now. Depending on how well I knew you. Yeah. Regardless of how you walked into this room. Yeah.
But I think when people talk about about money buying happiness, but then I always say that happiness is probably the wrong thing that we're talking about. Because happiness is just like any other mood, right? You can get sad, you can be happy. A depressed person who's suicidal to a point, if there's one thing that happened in a certain moment would make them happy in that moment. So it's
agreed.
So money could buy you happiness for a split moment, but I don't know. I think maybe it's not the happiness that people search for. I think what it is being content past everything else.
Agreed.
So when you are happy, when you are sad, there's something a bit deeper. That's always I think it's maybe self-sufficiency and having good perspective.
I'll tell you what money does do. It attenuates all your personalities. So if you're a dickhead,
exaggerates.
When you have money, you're going to be a bigger dickhead.
Yeah.
If you're insecure with money, you're going to be more insecure, not more secure.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen is, I'm talking business now, I've seen it time and time again. You get a guy who's insecure, goes out, earns a load of money off his business, all of a sudden buys the tables.
Yeah.
When he gets the tables, he gets the women. When he gets the women, he loses his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And because ultimately, so money.
And that was him, right? Not money.
Correct.
All in all.
But the money will accentuate that. And
Well,
that's
yeah,
why,
yeah.
going back to what you said earlier, self-development is the key.
Yeah.
Self-development to handle fame or handle notoriety or handle money or handle the stress of an organisation.
Yeah.
Self-development is key.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. We'll wrap this up with like a quick fire round that we'll do.
Yeah, go for it.
Just like a few questions, get your take on a few things, like minimal words.
Yeah.
Unless you want to explain it a little
I'll
bit further.
try my
It's up to you. What would you say your steps are, if you have any, like certain steps to setting and achieving goals? So if you had a certain goal, I want to do that, what are your steps to reaching there?
Do something towards it every day.
Yeah.
Non-negotiable, that for me.
Yeah.
Every day, wake up. Sometimes it's a big step and sometimes it's minute, but it gets achieved every day. Because I think progress is more important than results.
Yeah.
So incremental progression towards that
Like
goal
that.
every day without failure, like I do in my bed,
Yeah.
achieve a goal. And the second thing is every now and then I throw a game changer in.
How do you mean?
So in business, if you just constantly bringing on a new employee as an example, then they get him up, then you bring another one on, then you get him up to speed, then you bring another one on, then you get her up to speed. Before you know it, you look round and you've just done like 10 years and you've made progress, but it's very incremental. If you was in Sonic or you're on a game, what you're searching for is that thing that catapults you to another level.
Right.
So in my case, it was like doing my office was my first game changer.
Yeah.
With all that. That doubled us in size in a year,
Yeah.
right? Then I thought, let's do Leeds. So I bought a company in Leeds. So I went from 20 staff and then I moved office. I went to 40 staff. And then I bought a company in Leeds. I went to 80 staff. Then I opened in London, organically, 100 staff. Then along the way, I always try to put in one game changer.
So they're the game changers, you get new offices.
Buying businesses,
Yeah.
opening up a new channel.
Yeah.
And so I always try to fit in a game changer, one level up a year is what I try to aim for.
Yeah. But then if at that point, when you had one office, if you didn't have the resources, like the funds to then make that change, is that any other way that you can make game changer moves, maybe without money?
Good question, but I didn't actually have money when I made them.
So, all right, you found a way.
I just found a way.
Yeah,
the truth
yeah,
of
I
the
like
matter
that.
is the first game
Yeah, I like
changers
that.
I did, when I look back, I think, oh shit.
And is that always taking a risk?
Yeah.
It's always a risk, isn't
Always
it?
a risk.
Yeah, I like that. Top 3 money-making habits.
Top 3 money-making habits.
Things that you feel like, to make more money, these are the things you have to do.
Educate yourself.
Yeah.
Be efficient with your money.
Yeah.
Think like somebody with money. Don't think like the working class.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
That's honestly, when my grandma used to say to me, when you count the pennies, the pounds look after yourself. I think as you're counting the pennies in a working class, everybody else is printing 50s.
I like that. I heard you say something about, what did you say the other day? I was listening to a podcast she was on. You said, you asked your mum for advice about something. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Can you mention, say
Yeah.
what it was? I can't remember what it.
So
what it
the
was.
risk was this. Last year in lockdown, it's March, I've got 4 kids and I've got a big family and we have a nanny, right? So there's a lot of us. And they're all different ages, so it's not like I can put 4, right, that one's 15 and the youngest is 80 months.
Yeah.
So I get a call last March and it's a guy in Marbella and he said, I've got a property for you. But we're in lockdown, it's March 21, we can't leave our house. And it's like, I'm going to show you around this property this afternoon. It's a bank repossession, 10 years old. It's overgrown like Chernobyl now looks. It's got trees growing in the kitchen. But if you want it, you've got to buy it this afternoon. right? And I'm like, I didn't even wake up that morning thinking I was going to buy something, right? Tentatively, about a year earlier, I'd gone, oh, what's on the market, you know, It's getting more difficult to book hotels with kids. So I get this call, and I go, oh, go on then, because I'm not doing anything else, I'm sat home. 12 o'clock, we have a call. He's showing me around this house. I'll show it you off in a minute.
Yeah.
It's a pity we can't put it up, but and it's just trees growing through it. It's a mess. It looks like a jail.
Yeah.
Oh, he's off his head. I'm not buying that. Anyway, thanks a lot. But I don't want to back out yet, so I'll give you a buzz later maybe. And then I spent like 2-3 hours. What was a square foot? What's this? Da-da-da. Whereabouts is it? I'm on Google Earth. Got to about 3 o'clock, and I've gone from absolutely, definitely not buying this. And I'm like, I'm a bit tempted now. Because I've seen that it costs 4 times as much. I mean, I've got to develop this.
Yeah.
But it costs 4 times, 5 times as much to buy a similar property. And we ain't got the money for that. So it's not on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking round and I'm going, this is one chance. So I ring my mum. And I goes, right, mum, I've got this thing here. There's a house, a villa, Port Banús, blah, blah, blah. And I'm telling her. And she goes, oh, can't you just be normal? That was the first comment. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, why do you have to put yourself under so much pressure? That was comment number 2. So then she goes, I mean, there's trees growing in it. I can't remember the exact thing she said. You know, you're going to have to knock all the doors out. You know, it's on an estate with such and such a thing. And she named about 10 things. And not one of them was a balanced view.
Yeah.
And I said, Mum, I'm getting off the phone. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm getting off the phone. And just so you know, I'm never going to ask you ever again for any advice. Because you're thinking like your mum thought and your dad thought.
Yeah.
And that's why you are where you are. And I know you don't mean anything by it, but you have given me no element of balanced view here.
Yeah.
You've just given me 2 things of why can't you be normal and another 10 things of why I shouldn't do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I put the phone down and bought it. My mum works for me, so she works in the main office.
Mm-hmm.
And we went on this is working class people for you. And I'm working class, but I don't want to think all the time about working class, because otherwise you stay there. Yeah. So I'm on this train, and I tried to do something with mum and dad once a year that they wouldn't ever do. And with my mum, there's like this Northern Bell train that goes around. You can sit opposite your mum for like 4 or 5 hours where they just serve you stuff, and it's just you, and you don't get a signal. And I'm start talking to my mum, and she knows all about the business, so she, you know, she's right in the thick of it. And she just turned around to me and she went, Paul, when are you going to start living a life? And I looked at her and I said, what do you mean? She goes, when are you going to stop all this and when are you going to start living? And I was like, what planet are you on? Like, I'm a boxing fan. Roy Jones Jr. is my client.
Yeah.
I can just ring him now.
Yeah.
Whenever there's a fight, I'm front row. I don't have to pay. When my eldest son loves WWE, and actually he's from Preston, Wade Barrett, one of the WWE superstars, and he just gets me front row tickets at all the televised events. And then my son's backstage with The Undertaker and Big Show. Yeah. You know, he's now into his rap music, and we was on the stage at his last concert. Yeah, we wasn't in the show with free tickets. We stood on the stage while he was performing. We stood with him and his family on the stage, and I'm like, Mum, what fucking planet are you on? Asking me when am I going to start living? And that's coming back to that kind of idea of, you know, son, can't you be normal? Yeah. Son, can't you? They don't mean any harm by it. Yeah. But my grandma tried to get me a job as a butcher when I got a degree. You know, and my school, when I got good GCSEs, they tried to get me a job as a mechanic. If you're not careful, people will try to put your ideas into their box, and not your own. Yeah.
I love that. What would you say 3 mistakes that entrepreneurs make?
3 mistakes that they make?
Yeah. 3 common mistakes that you may see, like new entrepreneurs make.
I think they underestimate how tough it is.
Yeah.
You could actually end the question at that. I'm not saying we will, but I'll be honest with you, the pain that it takes now to get something off the ground, you've really got to be prepared for the long haul, to be disciplined, and you've got to understand what it's going to take. You know, I'm 15 years in, and I don't have a minute off work, hardly ever. I just think about it morning, noon and night.
Yeah.
And in the early days, I worked morning, noon and night, and every weekend, and I never had any days off for like 5 years. And that's so I feel like they underestimate the size of the task. I get people obviously coming to us all the time. I actually had a meeting today with a guy who says, I want to launch a mortgage app. And I said, what's your marketing experience? And he said, I haven't got any. I'm going to go and take it to a marketing agency. And I said, what is it you've come here for? Investment. So I said, how much do you need? Oh, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 grand. I said, okay, so you've got an idea. I'm going to give you 20, 30, 40 grand, and you're going to give it to a marketing agency. And if they don't get it off the ground, what are you going to do? And he's like, yeah, but she said she's really good at like getting it off the ground. And I'm like, what are you going to do? Because if I invest in you, I don't want to rely on her. She's got another 100 clients or 50 clients. And the guy is a lovely guy, but he couldn't get it. He could not grasp that when it all goes wrong in 8 weeks' time, he's going to look at her, and I don't give a toss about her. And she don't really give a toss about me. Yeah. If we leave that relationship, she goes and services the other 98 clients she's got, and I lose 40 grand. And he just didn't have any clue whatsoever about how tough it is. I've just gone into a sportswear brand. And I know a lot of people in sport, and I know a lot of people in sportswear. We have got on that brand, we've got a web dev, because I've got a web dev. We've got a social expert, a paid expert, an affiliate expert, a videographer, photographer, content manager, and there's probably 2 or 3 more. It's a very sophisticated operation because I employ them all through my other businesses. So I'm just collaborating them together. Put all that effort in, and we're 4 or 5 months in, and we get 3, 4, 5 orders a day. You have to go. But what does that give you at the end of the year? Gives us about, if we can get to 600 clients by the end of the year, the following year we try and resell them again. And it's a long game. So I think sometimes people launch a brand, they think that they've got a famous name. They think that that's going to be okay. Well, I've got a lot of famous names in our brand right now, and it's still not okay. It takes so much turning under stones and effort, and that's the biggest. They think they put the money in. And they think their name alone might get them through.
If you could give your 20-year-old self advice, what would it be?
Oh, it's dead simple. Just do something you're passionate about. And it's just that my heart actually breaks for people. My son's 15 now, and I just keep saying, he doesn't know what he wants to do, and I just keep saying, just do something that you enjoy. And you'll find your way. Like you asked me off this podcast before, like being an accountant. And I didn't be an accountant because I thought, I really, really want to be an accountant. I wanted to work in sport. I'd rather have played it, but I couldn't. The next best opportunity was, I'm acting in it every day. And that for me is like, when my mum's saying, can you start living? Sometimes I feel like, I need to start working because I don't understand that there's, do you know what I mean? So my 20-year-old self, I would say, take some risks and just get involved in something you're passionate.
But you did that as a 20-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you didn't do as a 20-year-old that you want to?
No, not really. No.
That's good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
And last one, what in business, what could have been your threats and downfalls?
My threats and downfalls, lack of patience for me. Very impatient. I go into things semi-de-risked, but I'm quite risky. Particularly for my from an accountant. From my background, I'm pretty risky. I don't know what my biggest threats are. Maybe being over ambitious. Maybe. I think I've got a lot of belief. I don't know whether that's a real positive, But there's a borderline between
it could be a blessing and a curse at the same time, couldn't it?
It can.
Yeah.
I genuinely
that.
believe I can do almost anything that I put my mind to because I've just got such a tenacity to make it work.
Yeah.
It's not a talent.
Yeah.
I just can't admit defeat
Mm-hmm.
at all costs.
Yeah.
And that could cost me. As I'm getting older, I'm trying to remove that, if I'm honest with you. But if that's your tool, if that's your...
Yeah.
You know,
Do you know, I know
my
exactly what
missus
you're talking
says
about.
to me sometimes,
Yeah.
Paul, you'll get this off the ground, but at what cost? There's me
Yeah.
and 4 kids. And sometimes I feel like you'd take yourself to whatever limit, and she's probably not far wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I love
That
that.
could be my downfall in the end, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind 20 years ago.
Yeah. No, that was an amazing answer to end this on. So I love that. Thanks so much for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
coming
Enjoyed
on.
that.
Been a
Thank
really
you.
good one. And I think my longest yet to date, but
Well,
full of gems,
I
man.
hope I've not bored you.
No, it's been amazing. Thanks so much.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Appreciate that.